Hello, and welcome to The Essential Reads. My name is Isaac, and my goal is to bring to you a bunch of classic audiobooks in an easy and accessible way. If you want to support the show, you can like and do all that normal stuff, you can subscribe, and if you really want to support me, you can join the channel by clicking down below, whether that be on YouTube or on podcast. There's a link and it says join the channel, and it's great. It lets me do this, which is nice. I don't know how to start these videos. We're continuing with Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, and we're on to chapter 4. So, let's dive in. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn was written in a time when terrible slurs and actions were used to oppress the African American people. These words and actions still cause harm today, and I, Isaac, would never wish to do so to any of these people. Any racial slurs that occur in this book shall be bleeped to avoid causing offense, and to guarantee that I can get paid for making these videos. I do, however, believe that you cannot censor the past, and that by trying to censor books, you are trying to pretend that the actions of our ancestors didn't happen. And for this reason, the book shall be remaining unchanged apart from these little bleeps. If you still find this triggering or offensive, then please check out another book. Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. Chapter 4. Well, 3 or 4 months run along, and it was well into the winter now. I'd been to school most of the time, and could spell and read, and write just a little, and could say the multiplication table up to 6 times 7 is 35, and I don't reckon I could get any further than that if I was to live forever. I don't take no stock in mathematics anyways. At first, I hated school, but by and by it got so I could stand it. Whenever I got uncommon tired, I played hooky, and the hiding I got next day done me good, and cheered me up. So the longer I went to school, the easier it got to be. I was getting sort of used to the widow's ways, too, and they weren't so raspy on me. Living in a house and sleeping in a bed pulled on me pretty tight, mostly. But before the cold weather, I used to slide out and sleep in the woods, sometimes, and so that was a rest to me. I liked the old ways best, but I was getting so I liked the new ones, too. Little bit. The widow said I was coming along slow, but sure, and doing very satisfactory. She said she weren't ashamed of me. One morning, I happened to turn over the salt cellar at breakfast. I reached for some of it as quick as I could to throw it over my left shoulder and to keep off bad luck. But Miss Watson was ahead of me and crossed me off. She says, "Take your hands away, Huckleberry. What a mess are you always making." The widow put in a good word for me, but that wasn't going to keep off the bad luck. I knowed that well enough. I started out after breakfast, feeling worried and shaky, and wondering where it was going to fall on me, and what it was going to be. There's always ways to keep off some kinds of bad luck, but this wasn't one of them kind. So I never tried to do anything, but just poked along, low-spirited, and on the watch-out. I went down the front garden and climbed over the stile, where you go through the high board fence. There was an inch of new snow on the ground, and I seen somebody's tracks. They'd come up from the quarry and stood around the stile a while, and then went on around the garden fence. It was funny they hadn't come in, after standing around so. I couldn't make it out. I was going to follow around, but I stooped down to look at the tracks first. I didn't notice anything at first, but next I did. There was a cross in the left boot heel, made with big nails to keep off the devils. I was up in a second and shining down the hill. I looked over my shoulder every now and then, but I didn't see nobody. I was at Judge Thatcher's as quick as I could get there. He said, "Why, my boy, are you all out of breath? Did you come for your interest?" "No, sir," I says. "Is there some for me?" "Oh, yes, a half-yearly is in, last night. Over $150. Quite a fortune for you. You better let me invest it along with your $6,000, because if you take it, you'll spend it." "No, sir," I says. "I don't want to spend it. I don't want it at all, nor the $6,000 nother. I want you to take it. I want to give it to you, the $6,000 and all." He looked surprised. He couldn't seem to make it out. He says, "Why, what can you mean, my boy?" I says, "Don't you ask me no questions about it, please. You'll take it, won't you?" He says, "Well, I'm puzzled. Is something the matter?" "Please take it," says I, "and don't ask me nothing. Then I won't have to tell no lies. He studied a while, and then he says, "Oh, I think I see. You want to sell all your property to me, not give it. Is that a correct idea?" Then he wrote something on a piece of paper and read it over, and says, "There. You see it says, for a consideration. That means I've bought it of you, and paid you for it. Here's $1 for you. Now you sign it." So I signed it, and left. Miss Watson's neighbor, Jim, had hairball as big as your fist, which had been took out of the fourth stomach of an ox. He said there was a spirit inside of it, and it knowed everything. So I went to him that night, and told him Pap was here again, for I found his tracks in the snow. What I wanted to know was what he was going to do, and was he going to stay? Jim got out his hairball, and said something over it, and then he held it up and dropped it on the floor. It felt pretty solid. I only rolled about an inch. Jim tried it again, and then another time, and it acted just the same. Jim got down on his knees and put his ear against it, and listened. But it weren't no use. He said it wouldn't talk. He said sometimes it wouldn't talk without money. I told him I had an old, slick, counterfeit quarter that weren't no good because the brass showed through the silver a little, and it wouldn't pass nohow, even if the brass didn't show, because it was so slick it felt greasy, and so that would tell on it every time. I reckon I wouldn't say nothing about the $1 I got from the judge. I said it was pretty bad money, but maybe the hairball would take it, because maybe it wouldn't know the difference. Jim smelt it, and bit it, and rubbed it, and said he would manage so the hairball would think it was good. He said he would split open a raw Irish potato, and stick the quarter in between, and keep it there all night, and the next morning you couldn't see no brass, and it wouldn't feel greasy no more, and so anybody in town would take it in a minute, let alone a hairball. Well, I know the potato would do that before, but I'd forgot it. Jim put the quarter under the hairball, and got down and listened again. This time, he said the hairball was all right. He said it would tell my whole fortune if I wanted it to. I says, go on. So the hairball talked to Jim, and Jim told it to me. He says, "Your old father don't know yet what he's a-gwine do. Sometimes he spec he'll go away. And then again, he spec he'll stay. The best way is to rest easy, and let the old man take his own way. They's 2 angels hovering round about him. One of 'em is white and shiny, the other one is black. The white one gets him to go right a little while, then the black one sail in and bust it all up. Everybody can't tell yet which one a-gwine to fetch him at the last. But you is all right. You gwine to have considerable trouble in your life, and considerable joy. Sometimes you gwine get hurt, and sometimes you gwine to get sick. But every time, you's gwine to get well again. They's 2 gals flying about in your life. One of 'em's light, and t'other one's dark. One is rich, and t'other's poor. You gwine marry the poor one first, and the rich one by and by. You want to keep 'em away from water as much as you can, and don't run no risk, case it's down in the bills that you gwine get hung." When I lit my candle and went into my room that night, there sat Pap. His own self. Thank you so very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, share, all that jazz, and if you really enjoyed, do subscribe because there's more to come. And if you really enjoyed, join the channel, because that would really make my day. I gave the trigger warning at the start, but I'm going to take a picture of this and put it on screen so you can read it. I'm not trying to do anything weird, anything that's out of the book, when I'm doing any voices for any characters that are black. African American, I think is what people in the States call it. I'll put a picture of the text to show how it reads. I'm not trying to do anything strange. I'm just reading the book as it is written. So don't call me out on it, please. Trigger warning at the start. I'm going to give this explanation now. You can read the text and see how it is written. I'm reading what is written down. I'm not trying to do anything weird, trying to do anything funny, trying to make fun of anyone. I'm reading the book as it's written because that is how it was written. If you've got a problem with it, read another book. This book was written in the 1800s, and people were racist back then. There's no light way to put it. People were racist back then, and I'm reading the book. because people have to read the book in American high schools. Pretty much everyone. I think this is the book that everyone in American high schools has to read. It's like Huck Finn and maybe To Kill a Mockingbird that everyone has to read. But yeah, I think these are the two books that everyone in America has to read. I'm not trying to do anything weird. I'm not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I am just reading the book as it is written. Once again, thank you very much for listening. And until next time, bye-bye.